Hi guys, this is Shiri from the Random Fandom podcast. It's been a while, but we're back. We actually recorded this show that you're about to hear, the special interview show, a whole year ago. Yes. But due to some unfortunate life stuff that I've been dealing with, it did not make it to your ears until now. Some stuff that we're talking about is a little outdated, but that's just podcasting. It is a lovely, lovely interview with this amazing person that we love so much. Please enjoy this one. We certainly did. Hello, fangirls and fanboys. Welcome back to Random Fandom, the podcast that is all about fan culture, pop culture, and everything good and wonderful in the world. I'm Shiri, and with me as always is my co-host Chen. Hi Chen.
Hi Shiri.
How are you?
Pretty good, how are you?
Excited.
Well, this is actually our 10th episode. I should say a bit of an anniversary. Yay! By the time we actually post it, I think it would be also a celebration of a year of doing this. 10 episodes, some would argue, is not a lot, but...
Well, we're just busy people, so very busy.
Very busy people, and clearly our guest today is not a busy person because she is nearing her 300th episode.
No.
So we're actually... It's clearly not busy at all, right? So yeah, we actually wanted to do something a bit special, celebratory today, and we're wondering what can we do to celebrate this momentous occasion. And if you listen to our previous episodes, you know that at least every other episode we mentioned a certain person who earned the title podcast favorite due to our many mentions of said person. So it is such a pleasure to welcome Janet Varney to our show today.
Hi, ladies. Oh, this is so flattering. What an undue amount of delightful name dropping that you without actually dropping my name until you finally said it.
Building up to it,
It was good. It was very suspenseful.
Who could it be?
For a while, I was suddenly unsure if it was still going to be me, and maybe there was going to be a new person.
Who is going to be on the show today? Yeah, but thank you so much for joining us on a Sunday morning.
It's my pleasure. I'm sorry it took us some back and forth. There's a lot that happens to me. I guess I feel like, speaking of mentioning things over and over on the podcast, I feel like every single time now that I have a guest, at some point it's like, and after numerous times of rescheduling, it's like, yeah, that goes without saying. You probably can stop saying it because it's so normal now that it's like, on our 7th attempt, I finally got the guest I had been trying to get.
And yet it's still amazing when it happens. You think, oh, next time we'll do better. And then something always happens. Yeah. But I think my favorite was how apologetic you were about it. Meanwhile, you're like volunteering in an animal shelter, saving the world. And you're like, I'm so sorry that I'm busy saving the world. I'm like, oh, you're an angel. What are you talking about?
Yeah. I was not. The animal shelter situation was... I can't take a whole lot of credit for doing anything other than giving a fair amount of money to be given a tour, which I guess is how they stay open. But I did not help anyone other than to coo appreciatively at the various animals that they have in the shelter. But I will say it's very impressive because I don't really go to zoos anymore. I just have weird hard feelings about zoos. And so this animal sanctuary was kind of a great selfish way to see very cute animals while also not feeling weird about it or guilty. So it was purely selfish.
So that you're saying it's a pure selfish way of being selfless, basically.
I guess.
Is what I'm hearing. I don't know. But we wanted to congratulate you again. Like, it takes us a while to post, so we really will post it probably around your 300th episode. no
Perfect.
So congratulations. It's such a milestone.
Thank you. It's very surreal. I mean, it's one of those I don't even say it's surreal. It's not, because surreal suggests like the sort of Salvador Dali aspect of it. It's not surreal like that. It's like, it's almost like it doesn't mean anything because it doesn't feel like one thing or another. Like it doesn't feel like 10 episodes, but it doesn't feel like 300 episodes. It just sort of feels like, I think it's become such a part of my regular kind of weekly life with few exceptions. That
is it like a job now? Just one of those things?
No, well, no. I mean, I wouldn't say that. I think it's just kind of, it feels so normal. It doesn't feel like a job because I definitely, it feels very different than a job in the sense that like I'm always very aware that I'm still choosing to do it and no one else is telling me I have to, kind of thing. And I don't make money doing it. So it is definitely more of a hobby in that way, but it's also not a hobby because I feel very committed to it and I've been very consistent. So that's what I'm saying. It's like, it sort of lives in its own universe. And in that universe, 300 doesn't feel, it's like the outside forces are telling me that 300 is significant. And I absolutely know that on a logical level, but there's also part of me that's like, yeah, it just keeps going. Like here it is. It's just plugging along.
I have to ask.
So I have to kind of. Oh yeah.
It's a completely serious question, but also completely unprofessional. Do you like? Because I know, and I'm gonna admit this. I'm doing this in my pajamas. I'm at home. I wanted to know because it's like you have these news anchors. There's always the joke that they're not wearing pants, right? Because you can't see below the table. And I just have to know because Shiri was asking if it becomes a job, like. Do you, especially because you always have guests and I'm guessing they're physically coming over. Is it just like a fun slumber party or you guys actually, this is a professional environment, right?
Right. Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I will say that I am certainly in my pajamas. As you both now know, I tweaked my back late last night. And so I put the minimal amount of effort into my appearance, which is to say I am wearing clothes, but that's about all I can offer. I'm wearing a JV Club t-shirt that is like it's like the extra large JV Club t-shirt with a collar cut off. So it's just sort of like a smock. It's one of my go-to.
Very good plug, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. I will say it's inside out. I put it on inside out, not on purpose, but it doesn't matter. So it's inside out.
If you're a person who works from home and you can't enjoy the benefits of working from home, then what are we doing here?
That's right. And I will also say, I do tend to, I mean, the good news is that people come over. So it's my house. So in that regard, it doesn't, it doesn't sound like it doesn't have the sense of like, oh, I have this job that I have to do, but I certainly make sure the house is clean. Like it sort of doing it consistently every week means that there are certain, at least surface qualities to the house that stay relatively clean at all times. There's, I recently did a deep clean because I don't have, someone who comes over and cleans for me or anything like that. And so I did kind of a deeper clean. And I was like, oh gosh, anything that's not visible to the naked eye is not necessarily in great shape. There's sort of layers of dust back, in the bookshelves and things like that.
Stuff under the rug.
Yeah.
It's a sort of deep clean, but it's not that deep.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I'm sure there's so many cereal crumbs underneath the rug by the television. And it's probably I don't deep clean because I pat myself on the back continuously for having it look nice. So it's it's a double-edged sword. But so I think there is, and especially if it's somebody that I don't know, it's hard not to overcome this desire to, still sort of be, comfortably dressed, but sort of look nice. It always makes me happy when people come over and they're sweaty and they're just wearing their gym clothes, because they should feel comfortable doing that. But I have a hard time presenting that, that face.
Presentation is important.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that was a lovely, extended opening. Thank you for answering my unprofessional question. I appreciate it very much.
Fair question.
Thank you. But we have you here today, and as Shiri said, our podcast is a lot about fandom phenomenon. We're fascinated by everything that has to do with fandoms, big and small, and the actual phenomenon. So there's a few things that we wanted to ask you. We'd love your input on everything and anything. But I guess my first question is, do you consider yourself a fangirl? What is a fangirl or fanboy to you?
Well, that's a really good question. If the answer to that, if the official terminology from the outside world is that to be one, you sort of are participating in a greater community, and engaging with people frequently about the stuff that you're into, which I hadn't really thought about that much until you just kind of put it that way and talked about the sort of idea and the fascination that you have that is behind your podcast. I don't know if I am, in the sense that I don't tend to participate in like the Reddit pages or Tumblr stuff. I think the only sort of deeper dive with the participation of others that my sweetie and I are engaging in for anything that we're a fan of at this point is probably Westworld, but we're still not like going into some sort of forum and like exchanging ideas or going onto a Facebook fan page or something like that. We're just like quietly trolling to see what other people are saying for theories, just like looking at someone's blog, like, here's what I think is going on in Westworld. Like that's sort of the limit.
Another aspect of fandom is not necessarily engaging in a community, but like the fact that it's in your thoughts, like there's a theory or a moment that takes up space in your head, like you just can't let it go. You didn't mean to care about this. You were just watching TV innocently. But then all of a sudden you have feelings for characters or plot points. And that's kind of another aspect of being a fan, or what someone would call a fangirl. Even if it is more low-key, like in a way that it comes across. So do you think that this is something that's more along the lines of what you feel?
Yeah. And in that case, yeah, absolutely. And I think, that's always been the case. And that's maybe one of the reasons that I do like to talk about adolescence so much on my podcast, because for me, and I think for many people, that's sort of the quintessential time to really start being like that, and in the case of many people, especially adults, like who end up having kids or do have these very consuming jobs, back in like when I was a teenager, I feel like a lot of adults didn't have the same kind of outlet to really fan out on something the way it's okay now for like hundreds of thousands of different people, different fans of all these different kind of worlds to go and feel like there's a place to put all of that energy. It seemed like when I was younger, it felt like there were like Trekkie conventions and Doctor Who conventions. And that was it. And then like, it was not, you couldn't really.
Well, that was considered laughable.
Right. Yeah. And you couldn't like nerd out on anything else. And then I remember it being like a big deal when I found out like, oh my gosh, people get together and like talk about Twin Peaks. Like that's a huge deal, because it was something I'd never heard of before. And I was not, a Doctor Who or like a hardcore Star Trek fan or anything, growing up. And so what I love now is that I feel like, again, you can sort of be, you can be a mom and you can also be the CEO of a business, but you can also totally like go down the rabbit hole on Veronica Mars websites and like spend an hour talking about it. So I think it's cool, because that's definitely something, you know what I mean? Like the internet has definitely created that environment that makes it more possible for people with like interests to, if not engage with each other, to your point, to sort of like live in that world a little longer in some way, rather than just like, oh, I watched the show, or like, oh, I read the comic and then I went back about my life and didn't think about it.
Yeah, and was a grown-up for the rest of the day.
I don't know. That's assuming being a fan is not a grown-up behavior. I just think we're setting it as the new grown-up behavior.
Right. Yeah. I guess that's actually what I'm saying is like there was a time in which it meant like the time to be that obsessed with something was kind of allowable when you were a certain age, and then it cuts off, and like that's just not true anymore. And I think that's, there's a lot that's very complicated and very hard about this, way in which we engage with technology, and the conversations that we're all having about feeling isolated, and the things that are happening in America that are absolutely appalling and heartbreaking, that a lot of people, rightly so, point to the way that we engage with the world online as possibly being, culprits in that. It's just such a confusing, crazy time. And I think that it's really important to look at things like, fandoms in a positive way that have really shown, like, guess what? It's probably not the worst thing in the world to stay engaged with your imagination and your dreams, and, the like things that aren't concrete and aren't painful as a way of keeping that, not innocence per se, but just like keeping that magic in your world. And I think that's one of the things that, a fandom and all of these different ways that you can, digest the things that you love that are either entertainment or they go beyond entertainment and are meaningful to you in a deeper way. I think it's kind of important right now. I feel like we need that.
Yeah, there is an element of escapism to it. Like, as you said, it's a harsh world. It's a harsh thing to be a teenager.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like back in the 80s when I grew up, we didn't have the type of interaction online, obviously. And the fact is, it's a lot easier now because you can find a community of people who are similar to you in ways that you couldn't before. You can find empowerment through fandom. You can find your voice. You meet people who will tell you that what you are and who you are is fine, no matter how different you are from your immediate environment. I mean, look at Korra as a fandom. This is more Chen's territory, I guess. Yeah. But, there are a lot of things that are empowering in a way that young people interact. And that's not bad. Much, much better than growing up the sad kid alone in the corner.
Absolutely. I agree with you. And that actually brings me to a really kind of key part of it for me, which is when you take something like The Legend of Korra or The Last Airbender, those to me are perfect examples of places that you can escape into and love the storytelling and the characters and want to escape into, right? But also in the ideal situation, they also you leave them to engage with the real world in a more meaningful way, and you're learning things from fiction that you can employ. So it's not like, oh, I would just rather, like, I like to become so socially inept that you only want to live in those worlds is not the goal, right? It's to be able to flow comfortably between both, and one is feeding into the other and back again, so that you're a more compassionate person. You have the escape, you have the catharsis, you have all of that, but you also come back into the world and have the perspective to go like, oh, this person that I think of as like my enemy or whatever, is there a way that when I tip into someone else's world, these imaginary characters or, other characters who are real, but they're not me, am I learning how to understand and be more compassionate with all different kinds of people in the real world?
I really love that you're saying that, because I was just thinking, before Shiri was talking about escapism, I was like, my initial thought was escapism, but then I was like, wait, but it's not just that. Because for me personally, with everything that's going on in the world and just, reading every now and then a lot of nonfiction, if I don't consume a certain amount of fiction every now and then, I feel like my brain melts. Like I feel like I need it to function because it triggers certain things, and I think we also see it a lot on TV. How we talk a lot about how, unless it's indie cinema, TV is way more progressed than films nowadays, and it's especially the sci-fi or the fantasy shows that really give you all the criticism about society. I think that's one of the things that I've been talking about a friend and trying to get them into the Avatar world, and I was trying to tell them, because a lot of people, when they hear cartoons, if they're a bit more like, let's call it old fashioned, they're like, oh, but cartoons are for kids. And I was trying to tell them, like, the thing about Korra and Avatar is it's a kids show, but it's not. Like, there's so much, especially with Korra, there's so many dark turns at some point, but it's like you absorb all these ideas, and the kids absorb all these ideas without even realizing about like diversity and equality. And I think it's just, it's you don't even realize that it's happening to you, and it's happening to us, and I think it's so great. So there's definitely like a combination there. But again, like Shiri said, there's nothing bad about escapism. It's also very necessary. I think it serves both purposes.
Absolutely.
So, if you had a chance at a younger age to become a fan of something, like to be a fangirl or whatever you want to call it, is there such a thing? Like a work of fiction or, whatever that in retrospect you could have enjoyed sharing with the community and obsessing about?
Yeah. I mean, that's a really good question. I think I have kind of, pontificated on it a little bit, on the podcast, just because, that is an opportunity for me to sort of be thinking about myself at that age. And I think I've said this maybe in one way or another on the podcast a couple of times, but like, it's a great question. I'm not 100% sure. And the reason is that I do feel like for whatever reason, I did feel very, and I don't know if it's like I'm an only child or what the reasoning was. Because I did love, feeling known or feeling understood and having those friendships where, I felt like whatever we were talking about or whatever we were excited about was this shared passion. That was something, but I also felt kind of private about that stuff. And so I think I did have that sort of, I wish this weren't true, but I do think I had that kind of guarded, like, I love it more than you do kind of thing. And so I'm not proud of that, but like, yes, you can still feel that way and still participate and, meet other people and then it's your opportunity to prove that you know more or something, I guess. But yeah, so like when I think about, for example, like Anne of Green Gables, which it's no secret, I just absolutely loved, and I would read all of the books in that Ella Montgomery series over and over again. Would I have wanted to take a deep dive into that with other people at the time that I was really passionate about it? I don't know, because it was so personal and so important to me that I think on some, again, very like selfish, annoying level, you sort of, if maybe you go through a phase in your life where you're like, no, this is just for me. Like anybody else who likes it, doesn't understand it the way I understand it. And I don't feel that way at all anymore. Now, when I am excited about something, I love sharing it. So I don't know if that's a product of me being different or a product of our environment welcoming that more and being more kind of encompassing and giving us that feeling of being connected, or if it's a little of both.
I think there's a teeny tiny bit of hypocrisy. I don't know if hypocrisy is the right word, but like a fan hypocrisy. It's like you love something so much, so everybody who doesn't know about it is either annoying or why aren't you watching this thing? And then the moment everybody's talking about it, all of a sudden they're like, no, I want it back. Like, this is not at all what I wanted. All of a sudden, I think we're trying to usually avoid mentioning timely things because we already realize it takes us a while to post. I will say that whenever you guys are listening to it, so Killing Eve is huge right now. Everybody's talking about it. And I've been waiting for it for months. And all of a sudden, like, I watch it. I'm the only one watching it the first week. Week 2, everybody's already talking about it. I'm like, I love it, but I don't love it. So, I mean, I want you guys all to watch it because it's amazing, but I knew about this before you. And I was the one telling other people to watch it.
You were a whole week ahead of the rest of us. That's true.
I appreciate your honesty about that. And I will say that I do love Killing Eve.
See, there you go.
Did you read the books, or did you just know about it from like you heard it was in production and you got excited about it because it sounded great? Like, how did you get excited?
Yeah, kind of like in between. I haven't read the book, and it was kind of by choice because from what I know, the book is I guess the spy, like Sandra Oh's character, is a guy, already less interesting to me. You know what I mean?
I heard that they did that with a couple different. I couldn't remember if it was the Fiona Shaw character, or if it was or if it was Sandra Oh. But you're right, the female energy on that show is just like lightning. It's so fantastic.
Can you imagine that show with a male lead? Like immediately turned into something that I've seen a million times and I couldn't care less about. Like the magic of it, its original something that it has comes from, like you said, the female energy.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, because it's two women. There's like a, it's almost like there's a sexual undertone that would just be boring with like a guy.
I couldn't agree more.
Exactly.
I could not agree more.
Oh, they're so good, the both of them.
Yeah, and I have to credit Shiri, because she's been on me for years to watch my Mad Fat Diary, and because I have, like, recently in the last few months, I knew, like, I've seen Jodie Comer, who's, like, breaking through right now in this crazy role, but I really love Sandra Oh. So I remember telling Shiri a few months back, there's this show in development, I think they just released the trailer, it's like a spy girl and the assassin girl, or like, I should say woman, but and it's Sandra Oh and it's Jodie Comer, and I'm like, was very excited when it happened, and I'm again like very happy that everybody's talking about it, because usually BBC America, for some reason, it's such a, in a way, niche.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It took, even Orphan Black took a while, and I still think most people who watch that show either really heard about it from friends or are in the industry.
Right.
So we're really interested. So even the little show that is Orphan Black, took a while, and Eve just exploded. Yeah. So again, like, I'm super happy about it, but I'm also like, okay, but I knew about this before you did. Just for the record.
I seriously appreciate you being open about that, because it's a complicated feeling with the stuff that we love, right? That we didn't create ourselves. It can be a complicated feeling.
But yeah, but I would say there's also, I feel like, I don't know, I don't think it's a fan thing. I think it's a friendship thing. When you really love someone, you're usually on this like mission to convert them. Like, I think my Killing Eve count is like on 5 people now, and that excites me. I'm like, oh yes, I got you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. So that's how we were with Halt and Catch Fire. We didn't know anyone who was watching it, and we were so crazy about it. And so we knew all these people who were watching Mr. Robot, and we were like, you are missing. Yeah. Like, I mean, no offense to that show. It's not my cup of tea. And I'm not saying there aren't things that were extraordinary about it, but that turned out to not really be interesting to me. And meanwhile, Halt and Catch Fire, we were like, it's like, it's so special, and you're getting this whole history of the way things are created, and it feels so timely in this kind of absurd way to be learning about this now, with everything having exploded the way it has, and all the performances are so amazing, and we just knew no one who was watching it. Like, we literally knew no one who was watching it. And so we were doing the same thing. It was like, whenever someone would be like, dude, Mr. Robot, we would be like, okay, could you do me a favor and go ahead and check out this other show?
It's actually, you're giving me conveniently a very good way to connect to my next question, because there's another layer to being a fan when you're actually in this industry, because both shows you just mentioned I auditioned for and never got the role. So there's always like the little added bitterness of like, and I feel like shows that I really love, I really want to be on. And that's something that I feel like people who are not in the industry, it's like a whole other layer of being a fan, and it's very complex. And I don't know if we should really, I know.
No, I mean, I just completely understand. There are shows that I can't watch because I will say, luckily, I don't enjoy watching a lot of comedy. And since that's principally what I get to audition for, there isn't a ton of crossover. So, and part of it is just because I just associate it too much with work, not in a bad way, but also like I laugh. I'm so fortunate in that I get to laugh so much in what I do and what I write, and I have such funny friends. That part of my life is very, very rich already. So I just don't find myself wanting to watch comedy. And it sounds so stupid and kind of weirdly braggy, but like, I just don't need to. And for a while, I was really critical of myself. Like, what is my problem? Like, I don't watch comedy. And only recently have I realized, like, oh, it's not that it's stressful to me, or that it's just about, oh, I auditioned for it and I didn't get it, or anything like that. It's just like, I just have so much comedy in my life. It's great. what I get, apparently I don't have enough dark, moody British murder. So that's where I go. It's like, if I can watch something that takes place in Scotland and solve a crime in the process, like that's really two birds with one stone.
Actually, you know what? I really wanted to know, talking about You're the Worst for a second, did they kind of put the whole podcast thing for your character based on real life? Was that kind of like, we have to put that element into the show? Because
I doubt it. I mean, I think that what Stephen and his amazing team of writers, many of which are women, do so beautifully is somehow capture, this Los Angeles zeitgeist without it being too much of a cliche. And certainly this idea that everyone has a podcast is very pervasive in Los Angeles. I think you sort of looking back, it feels like it sort of had, everybody's in a good place with everyone having a podcast right now. But there was this sort of like fever pitch where this sort of joke was like, oh God, I'm not this person, but I'm saying like the sort of joke that all podcasters were uncomfortable with was people being like, yeah, they're probably going to ask you to do their podcast. Like, oh, everybody's got a podcast. Somehow I think that was like a temporary freak out that everyone was having, that everyone had a podcast. And now it seems like it's settled down and it's like, yeah, everyone has a podcast. That's normal. So people don't make those kinds of jokes anymore. And maybe it's that, some dropped away that weren't as good, or, for whatever the reason, it's normalized in a way now that's not a big deal. But them having that element, I think just, I would be surprised if it had anything to do with me having a podcast. I think just the idea that that Todd's character would feel like he has an important enough thing to say that Becca and Vernon would be like, we really have something to bring to the table. It's just like so funny.
That seems to be the only thing they agree about, is that they need to have a podcast.
That's right. That's where their egotistical nature, like that Venn diagram, it only overlaps when like they both get to be the star of something.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Shiri, I think you had a question about the LA comedy podcast scene, right?
Oh, absolutely. It could not have been a more perfect segue, actually.
We did it.
Yeah.
We did it.
By the way, I missed my segue, but I'll go back to that later. Just pointing it out.
Welcome to my world.
Janet is so great about talking about everything that we wanted to talk about, that we're just all over the place. But, that's on us, by the way.
No. I really only know how to be all over the place, so don't give it a second thought.
Very graceful.
Okay, so yeah, actually, like I said, the perfect segue, because the LA podcast scene,
oh boy,
if that's even a thing, LA improv comedy scene, that's where I was introduced to you, Janet, and your work through the Thrilling Adventure Hour.
Yeah.
Because I'm a huge fan of the Thrilling Adventure Hour podcast.
I love it.
Just could not be a bigger adventureketeer, which is how we call ourselves, the fans. That's our fandom name. Okay, for our listeners who are not familiar with the Thrilling Adventure Hour, even though I think I might have mentioned it before, the Thrilling Adventure Hour was a stage show, a monthly stage show in LA. And the format was like this old-timey variety radio show, and it had like this core group of players, every one of them amazing, talented people, and Janet is one of them, and they're called the Work Juice Players, and with them like so many amazing guest stars. It was just amazing. It's witty, it's so well written, it's so well performed. It just came into my life and just took over. I'm obsessed with it. It ran for 12 years, and then it stopped, which was heartbreaking.
I think everyone that's a part of it sort of feels the same way. I don't know. If any of us are like secretly relieved, I don't think they're not saying anything. You know what I mean? No one is saying like, oh, thank goodness I don't do that anymore.
Yeah, that one night a month, finally free.
That's right. That's right. Well, actually, it's funny you would say that because we just have been looking into getting the improvising side of the work juice players. We've been looking into getting some sort of residency at a theater where we get to do a monthly improv show, and that's part of the sort of joke of that shared text thread that we are all on, which is the sort of like, somehow we found a way to do something else one night a week, or one night a month. So surely we can make this work.
Okay, so I'm gonna need more info. Who, when, who's we? Should I book a flight?
Oh boy. Yeah, I was gonna say, Janet, you have to be careful with saying stuff like that because she will book a flight, you know?
Yeah. I'll have to keep you posted, Shiri, because I don't think we've got the dates firmly in place yet. But what we try to do is, when like at Sketchfest, we started doing, I think it started in Australia where Ben Blacker was like, yeah, we have this, we have an extra night. Would you want to do an improv show instead of doing Thrilling Adventure Hour? And anybody who's not an improviser can play if they want to. I mean, we're not going to be like, oh, Autumn, you're not typically an improviser. Everyone's so funny.
Well, yeah.
So we did that. And then, we've done them from time to time, and we've done them at Sketchfest. And when we can, we'd like to have, other non-improvising work juice players be our monologists so that we still bring in, the rest of the group as much as we can. So, that's certainly something that we would be, wanting to do as much as possible with this. But the improvisers are, Annie and Hal and Craig, Gags, Paula.
Oh, I know my work juice players. You don't have to tell me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm totally clueless. I'm feeling now the same way Shiri felt when I was talking about Korra and You're the Worst. So we're good. We're good.
I just wanted to see if I can get you to say all those names.
Right. Right. Yeah, I'm happy to do it. There's also a text thread that is everybody that's everybody who's a work juice player and the Bens and a couple of extra buddies who've done the show a few times. But actually, you know what? To be honest with you, it might only be one friend of the show, which is Tim Omenson. But it'll be quiet.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be a quiet text thread for a while, and then someone will have some, picture that they want to share, and then it sort of flares up, and we all joke because like whoever of us is not around our phone when the text kind of
explodes,
fires up. Yeah, it's like Craig Kikowski had. He hadn't weighed in, and there's so many people on it, you don't really pay attention to like who's saying stuff and who's not. And he got on and said, I just got off a plane in Dublin or something, somewhere far away. He's like, I just got off a plane and I had 72 text messages. I'm so relieved none of you are dead.
See, this is me every morning because that's what happens when your family is overseas and also likes to talk a lot.
I bet.
So
I bet.
Yeah, so I just got used to the fact that everybody's fine, but it's just every conversation turns into. But Shiri, you had an actual question about the LA scene.
No, we're talking and it's all good.
Okay.
But tell me more.
Well, now I want to know what your specific question was.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So you kind of said before, it's kind of a joke now that everybody in LA has a podcast of their very own, which is, it's great for me because when I kind of fell into the Thrilling Adventure Hour unexpectedly, I mean, I didn't know that was going to happen in my life. But then all of a sudden I had to go look for the work of every single person that was involved with it. And all of a sudden I had like a trillion new podcasts to discover and go back and listen to, and no time in the day for anything else. But now having listened to a lot of the work juice players do a lot of other things and the Thrilling Adventure Hour, I kind of feel like I kind of know you guys personally, and that's also a big part of being a podcaster. It's more intimate than like an acting role. I mean, you're not playing a role. You're kind of sharing your life with listeners, people who's listened to 300 of your shows, of you speaking about your life, your childhood and growing up. People must feel that they know you.
Yeah, I think that's very fair to say.
Spoken like a true fan.
Yeah, but it's not exactly the same as being just, a fan of an actor or something. It's not a role that they play, it's them. So I guess what I'm asking is, when you talk to fans, how creepy is it?
No, it's not. It can't be creepy when we're the ones putting it out there. But and that's definitely the hardest thing, I think, is for us who, have been fortunate enough to get, a lot of listeners or what have you, and that we're talking about ourselves or just sharing, I don't know how much like Mark and Hal tell personal stories on their podcast, but you absolutely know them. So, I mean, they are who they are. And if you listen to them for 50 hours, you know who Mark and Hal are. And I think that especially the those of us who have podcasts on and are in that group, we do it because we are people, so to speak. And it's hard when someone comes up to you and they look at you with such familiarity and you don't know anything about them. It's very imbalanced, and it's not imbalanced in a way that's like, please get away from me. It's imbalanced in the way of like, oh no, like I don't have that. I can't immediately like snap into something with you because I don't know what you know about me. And so that is kind of a bittersweet side of it.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. At some point I realized I get all the in-jokes at Thrilling, And I was like, oh my God, I'm all the way over here, like the other side of the world, laughing because I can hear Mark Evan Jackson being all grumpy about someone else singing the Sparks Nevada theme song. And I know what it means to him to have someone, other than himself. You know what I mean?
I do. I absolutely know.
And it feels like you're all playing in the same sandbox. Like you're all doing each other's podcasts and shows and stuff. And you've had I'm assuming every friend of yours on the JV club. But at this point,
yeah, the good news is it's such a crazy business that you keep meeting new people. So that part has been great, is like I'm meeting people through doing the podcast, and then also podcasting people I've met that I get excited about. And it's kind of a cool way to sort of start a new friendship. Now, that doesn't always mean that you end up seeing the person a ton, because again, it's like everyone's all over the place all the time. But anyway, go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No.
Is there like an understanding that if you have a guest on your show, then you owe it to him to be on his show later on?
I think so. I mean, I think that's a foregone conclusion. I think anytime I think that there's a pretty equal exchange of like, of course I'll do your podcast.
It's like that old joke, come see my one-man show. So now it's come be on my podcast.
Oh yeah. Now you have to do my podcast. Yeah, absolutely.
So one last thing about the Thrilling Adventure Hour, if I can manage it. I mean, I can't make any promises. I should have opened with it, just telling you how much I love your recurring character, Ginny West.
Oh, thanks.
I adore her, and I love her relationship with Sparks. Love the whole thing.
It was such an honor to do. It's so stupid because I don't know if he would agree with me. Like I'll have to tell him that I said this, and I'll just see what his expressionless face does. Probably stay expressionless, but I do kind of feel like, it's so stupid. It's so stupid. But and I've never thought about this before, but I guess part of me does kind of feel like I have something extra special with Jackson that that's not, I don't like, we're all really close. And there are so many, oh no, Whitley's very upset because Scott got taken on a walk without her. There, you may hear some like husky moaning and whimpering in the background because she's very, very confused and upset. But I think there's some weird part of me that feels like I got so lucky to have this sort of like, thing where it was like this love thing with Jackson. And of course I adore his wife, and there's nothing real there.
Yeah.
But there is this sort of like, hey buddy, like, we got to do this cool thing. And so I think there is something that I feel like a little extra proud.
Yeah, that one time we were married for like a second. Right.
Until I may or may not have turned out to be someone completely different.
Right, the plot twist that I won't spoil for future listeners of the Thrilling Adventure Hour. But I gotta say, I couldn't see what the big deal was.
Oh, there you go.
I think it could still have worked. I mean, I was for it.
Good.
But anyway, it's so sweet to hear you, speak about Jackson like that, or, express those feelings. Obviously, as a fan, I love it. And You actually kind of really feel it in the work in the show. You know how like Mark Evan Jackson and Mark Gagliardi have this vibe because they've been partners in this segment for so long.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And Paul and Paget obviously have their
Absolutely.
thing. And it's kind of amazing that Jeannie was a later addition to the cast of regulars in the Sparks Nevada universe. Everyone there were pretty much established. And immediately it felt like she always belonged. And I just love it about her. You never once felt like she didn't, what is she doing there? She doesn't really fit, or we need to take the time to get to know her. Like there was a decade of story before she appeared.
Yeah. Well, that's a relief to hear because I definitely felt like incredibly honored to get to sort of come in to the crew.
I guess part of it is because you were not a stranger to the Thrilling Adventure Hour show. We the audience knew you. You've done a lot of parts. You played Donna Henderson. That was your regular role in Beyond Belief.
Yeah.
And I guess that helped. And then with Ginny, you became a regular. But then it was over.
I came in just under the wire.
You made it in.
Oh, it really means a lot to me to hear you say that. Thank you.
Oh, well, it means so much to be able to tell you. I can't even believe it. So anyway, one more thing about the Thrilling Adventure Hour, and then maybe I'll let Chen speak. So this is about people you work with, like the work juice players, but not just them, just the improv scene in general. And the San Francisco Sketch Fest, etc. Just very strong comedic talents. You seem to be to have them all around you, and some of them has very specific styles. So do you feel like you're influenced by them at all? Because sometimes I think I can hear a bit of it in your voice, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, she sounded a bit like Paul F right now. Or sometimes it's just a cadence or, something in the voice or a figure of speech that people have that gets stuck to us. And so do you feel that you're influenced like that? Because maybe it's just me being like fanish about it, wanting to think that I can hear the influence.
Oh, I'm sure I was influenced by Paul. I don't know if I was influenced by anybody else, but I have no doubt that I was influenced by Paul. I mean, he's been a favorite comedian of mine for so many years, and I've known him for so long, and knew him so long as a friend without having worked with him that I'm sure. I mean, I feel like he and Jimmy Pardo both influenced me a lot when I first moved here, and I was just so taken with who they were as people and as performers, and I was very, very, very lucky to become friendly with them, and then our friendships grew, and so I think that I'm sure that happened without a doubt. I think you're absolutely right. If you feel like you hear Paul F in me, I'm sure that's true, because it's not on purpose, but
Of course not.
He's just somebody that I'm around a ton and have known for many years, and he's a genius. So I'm sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
My brain has absorbed all of that. I couldn't agree more.
So in your career, you're involved in many projects that have very active, i.e. vocal fandoms. It's really interesting, to talk to someone on the other side, so to speak. How is it being on the receiving side of that sort of attention? Is it something you're enjoying? Is it something you're bothered? Is it both? This thing called fandom culture. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, what I think maybe the podcast was not intended to be a way of communicating through for that kind of reason, but the timing of it with Korra, it all sort of I think I had started recording the podcast before I got Legend of Korra, and then they came out around the same time, and that was sort of a weird coincidence. But so my relationship to fans definitely kind of all changed at once in a way, and so I think what's happened is that my way of processing it in some ways is helped by the podcast, because that's this opportunity I have to sort of just continue to be an idiot, and to like just listen, like meet other people that I know are, people are huge fans of, and kind of just get a version of them that is very grounded and very vulnerable and silly and, just candid in a way that you don't necessarily get, from seeing what their work or, even hearing them in interviews, like hearing about other stuff that isn't that stuff, I think helps. Because the main thing that I would feel weird about is if people were like, it's weird because it is so personal, and the sort of negative side of that is the kind of the trolling that people experience on the internet or stalking or anything like that, which is, I've been very lucky not to have a problem with, and I'm also not as well known as most of the people that I think do have that problem. But I just don't want anyone to ever think that like being on this side of things makes you like a more meaningful person or a more together person or somehow better, or you know what I mean? More like emotionally developed, like just none of that is real. So it's been really helpful, I think, for me to have this avenue, this outlet where I can continually like strip that away, because I don't like, no amount of fame is worth someone thinking that you're not a real person, or that they are somehow not important or a valuable human being because you don't know their name just because they know yours. I mean, that's ridiculous, And I think some people, most people who are famous do feel the way I do, and then there are people who I think like the feeling that they are somehow more important, and that's a real shame.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. But it's so interesting because you can take it to that side, but you can also take it to the complete other side. For example, so with Korra, I can imagine that that role comes with a certain responsibility that you maybe not figured out ahead of time, because we didn't know how this show was going to end. And all of a sudden, and everything that has to do with the LGBT community is very, I always feel like when an actor gets a role like that, whether he chooses or not, it comes with some sort of responsibility, and that can be overwhelming, I'm guessing, but it seems like it's something you are very happy that you got to do, and you share fan art all the time. So
the stuff that I've sort of become affiliated with, or that has been like roles I've done, like horror, where it ends up kind of having this meaningful impact or this representation of a certain group, like the feeling of responsibility. Because I think that's definitely true. I was very lucky in that there wasn't anything that I wasn't already like sort of already passionate about or already a real advocate for. So it felt very natural. If it had been a situation, I'm trying to think of something like, I don't know, this is totally off the cuff, so I don't know if this will make any sense, but like, let's say, for example, that Korra, the end of Korra, she ended up converting to Islam, right? And all of a sudden my character was this kind of beacon for, look at how, this westernized culture, like, or this is a bad example again, because like Korra is not particularly Western. She's much more Eastern. But if it was a situation where she made this huge life change and it was significant in a cultural way that I personally have no experience with, although I have all the respect in the world for, I think I would be very intimidated by that, because I would feel like I wanted to know more about Islam. I would want to read the Quran. I would want to be able to represent that if I went to a Comic-Con and had someone say it meant so much to me that Korra converted to Islam, because now I feel that, we have this character that many people who don't know anything about Muslims suddenly now their eyes are open and they see that like this, it's, you can come from anywhere and still embrace those tenets. And, here it's this way in. I was able to tell my best friend, like, doesn't think Muslims are terrorists anymore because Korra converted. You know what I mean? Like, if it had been something like that, I would have felt really intimidated, because I would feel I'm not a person who can talk about that in my day-to-day life in a way that is deserving of what the character went through. And so it just happens that I already had very strong feelings about LGBT plus communities, and I had played a gay character on Burning Love and had a lot of conversations about that with, kind of a different fandom, and have, a cousin who's like my brother who's trans. And so that was something, and lived in San Francisco for so many years. So that was something that I felt so comfortable with. And also her going through PTS and having, psychological problems, like, coincidentally, that's something I have a ton of experience with. So it was very easy for me to be out among fans at the cons, talking about that in a real way and feeling like that responsibility didn't feel like extra in a sense, whereas it would have if it was something that I didn't already have a real familiarity with. Does that make sense?
Yeah, a lot of sense. And I think it's beautiful. I mean, Shiri, are you going to watch Korra anytime soon? The pressure is on.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I mean, I just have nothing to add because I thought it was a beautiful answer, and it does make a lot of sense. I think, for me personally, I'm bisexual, so for me, like, I get what you're saying because I think the difference between it being a blessing versus it feeling like a burden is how familiar are you with it? And like, I would be honored to play a queer character because I feel like I can do that authentically and it would have an impact. So yeah, I totally get what you're saying. And I'm curious about Korra from like a technical, I don't know. I've never heard you talk about it, I think, but from a technical point of view, I'm really interested in how was the audition process for Korra? Is it, did you have to read with the actual animation already? Was there a chemistry read with any of the characters? That's my fangirl question. Shiri and I were like, each one of us get one fangirl question today about the fandoms themselves. That's mine.
Oh, I took a million questions right off the bat, and you were super nice about it.
Well, this is all your questions have been wonderful, and they're nothing but a pleasure to talk about with you. So, but the audition process was, I think I went in. It's hard for me to remember like how many auditions there were. There may have only been 2. There may have been like 3 or 4. I definitely remember reading for almost no one, and then reading maybe for more people, like maybe Mike and Brian. Again, if I'm wrong about this, like, someone will maybe say something someday, but the last audition that I had was definitely a chemistry read with certainly with David and with PJ, and then I honestly I can't remember who else was there other than my friend Danny Pudi, because I was already friends with him. Of course, he's wonderful on Community,
yes.
and is just a brilliant, wonderful actor. And so he was there for one of the roles. And so that's what I really remember was that, my friend was there, and I was like incredibly excited because I think there was only 2 of each of us. And I sincerely don't remember who the other person was reading for Korra, only because I just was not part of the voiceover world at all. So I didn't know. At the time, I just didn't know anyone except this, on-camera friend of mine. I'm sure. I mean, of course, I knew who David was from Married with Children, but yeah. So we definitely did a chemistry together. There was no animation. There was a picture of what she looked like by that time. I don't know if I had a picture of her before then, but there definitely was an image of her, and yeah. And so that was the final piece. And then there was such a long period of time after that. That I really had kind of, I don't want to say I'd forgotten it because that would be insincere. I, of course, you sort of still always hope, but very frequently, especially with auditions that are for voiceover, you just don't, it's not like you hear if you don't get it, you just don't hear anything. And so I had assumed that, and I had 0 expectations about ever booking any voiceover, and still have 0 expectations. And I pretty much don't book anything except, once in a rare while I'll get something. So no surprise to not hear anything. And so the shock was when I heard that I got it, I was like, wouldn't I have known this already? Or, there's just this sort of disbelief that took a while for me to kind of sink in that it was real. That said, when I was told that I got it, and I just thought it was a pilot, I didn't realize it had already been picked up. I have told the story that I was in Joanne's Fabrics, and that I like jumped up and down and screamed something, and everyone around was like, "What is wrong with her?"
That's fascinating. Do you feel like in the audition room, once you saw that image of her, did it impact at all how you were reading her? All of a sudden, you had that visual reference.
Well, you know what? I think at that point they had already, because it was not the first time I auditioned, I wouldn't have really changed anything, because I think at that point, it was sort of in their hands of like, if Mike and Brian verbally gave me an adjustment, I would have done that, but I would have been too scared to change anything based on the image. I think it would have been like, oh, well, I got this far with what I've been doing, so I shouldn't mess around, If I had seen it and I had, if I had free reign to totally change it, I don't I don't know. I don't know if I would have. Yeah, that's a really good question. I actually don't know if I would have changed it. I probably would have, because I would have like gotten scared and doubted myself, and then I would have just thrown the whole thing.
But the bottom line is that being an actor is so much fun always.
That's right. There's no downside.
So thank you for answering. That was great. We were thinking maybe if you're up for it, we can do a fandom mesh game.
Ooh, the tables turn.
Oh yeah, I know. I was like, we'll see. We'll see based on time.
I deserve it. No, I'm happy to do it. I deserve it because I put everyone on the spot time after time, and everyone is always like so game to come up with off the cuff answers, and I always think to myself I would be terrible at this. So
See, that's so funny. It's funny that you're saying that, because I was thinking about it yesterday and I was like, should we do this or not? And I was like, I feel like it's terrifying to be on the other side of that as someone who consider herself terrible at improv, and in a way it's sort of that, so I'm like, oh my god, how do people do that?
It's not improv, it's just letting your imagination go, and just,
I mean, come on, you have to like under pressure answer a few questions.
Yeah, I think it might be worse for improvisers because they put more pressure on themselves, whereas like it is just a mash game, so everybody should be able to do it. It's just usually when you're playing MASH, you're not playing it for something that's recorded that lives forever. So that's where the pressure, I think, really comes in for people is,
I think that people feel like whatever they said, whatever their answer was, they committed to it. Like, now that's it. If you said, like, these are the 3 people that I want to meet, like, for dinner, these are the people you get. You don't get any other people.
That's right. It starts to feel very real. It feels too real.
If you said Paris, you got to go to Paris. And
yeah, that's exactly right.
It's reality.
That's exactly right.
But that's the thing. When, like, every time I see, like, a red carpet interview or, like, like a talk show interview and someone's like, what's your favorite movie? And I'm just like, oh, my God, if someone would have ever asked me that question, I was just blank.
Right.
Stare.
And I do.
At the air.
And I do.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So we'll see how that goes.
We'll see how that goes. Well, we wanted kind of like the fandom twist of things. So we have a few questions, and I think I'll write down your answers. And I went downstairs and got a dice from my neighbors, going old school here. Ooh. So we'll see how that. I don't know how you do it, but I think you at this point have a whole technique in place to
I have do this thing. I have a little pre-made form, so I know how many categories I have and how many items per category.
All right. Yes. So my first question is 3 shows that you would love to guest on, including shows you wish you could have but are now off the air.
Okay, great. 3 shows I would guest on that are now off the air. It's Gary Shandling's show. It's Gary Shandling's show from the 80s, early 90s. Definitely the original Twin Peaks first season.
I know it's hard.
Oh yeah, for sure. And then, I mean, listen, there's a million, so it's funny to hear myself say all the qualifiers that everyone says, like, oh my gosh, I could pick 10 easily, like off the top of my head, 10. Next one would be guest on, so it's like a continuing series.
Ooh.
I'm gonna say the original Muppet Show.
Well, that's the thrilling adventure hour, isn't it? The bands always say that it's like a Muppet Show back there.
That's right.
I believe them.
I mean, I do have a puppet, so you're right. It's adjacent.
Yeah, you did get a puppet. I have to say, you had those answers lined up pretty quickly.
I didn't. I mean, I really didn't. But I did sort of think like, what do I hear myself talk about a lot? And those were 3 good ones. Yeah. But again, I'm sure I could come up with a million more.
You know what? Because you do it so often, I feel like it was only a matter of time until someone did it to you. So maybe you should be walking around with a cheat sheet. Just a suggestion for the future.
All right. So next one is, how about 3 franchises that you'd like to see adapted to another platform?
Oh,
like, if it's a book that you love, you'd like to see it as a musical. Great. If it's a movie, you'd like to read the book.
Boy, that's tough. Yeah, that's funny because it's like, it's very rare that for most of us, it's sort of rare that we would want a book to be turned into a movie, but then if it turns out good, we're happy. But it's like too scary to say. Do you know what I mean? It's too scary to say like, oh, let's turn that into a movie because it could be terrible. live action Last Airbender. But
Okay, I was like, was that choice number one? No, that was criticism.
no, that's just an example of the thing that goes horribly wrong. Like, oh wait, that never should have existed. I would like adapted to another platform. God, this is a great question. God, I just had this. What I was going to say was I just saw a movie recently where I was like, I don't know why that wasn't a miniseries. Like that should have been an HBO show instead of, with like 13 episodes instead of just one movie. And now I can't think of what it was and I'm angry. It was definitely something like that. I will say, well, this is so stupid. This is such a waste of a wish. Like, cause now Leah Remini has done it. So I really can't, this is not my answer, but what I thought was that Going Clear show. Yeah. I was like, why is this just one movie? Like this should be a series. But then Leah Remini basically did it and did it even better because it's so personal for her.
That's the Scientology?
Yeah, Scientology and the Aftermath. Yeah, that's her show.
I thought that you were gonna say it should have been a musical.
Well, it's funny. Well, you know what? Well, I will go ahead and say that because Jenny Jaffe and I, a recent guest, Jenny Jaffe and I did say we wanted to do the Scientology musical. So we'll say Scientology as a musical. That's great. Thank you for getting me to that answer. Boy. That's actually really good.
Sure. My pleasure.
Let's do the film Sense and Sensibility, but as a 5-year, 13-episode miniseries. So we just get like dozens of hours of that expanded.
It's like British seasons.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So basically, there's just the yearning. They just pine for each other for just 30 episodes. Just the pining. And
let's just get more of that.
Love it. By the way, that sounds amazing.
Good. Okay. I'm helping the world. Let's say I'm doing exactly what people do when they're at my house, which is I'm looking at my bookshelf. Like, okay, all right.
That is smart.
I'm trying. Let's say
this is how characters on TV make up their made-up names by looking at books on their shelves and just combining.
It's true. It's Kaiser Soze all over again.
So this is how you came up with Sense and Sensibility. Makes much more sense now.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. That one I don't have on this bookshelf. So that one is that just drives straight to the core of my Emma Thompson obsession. Let's say maybe. Well, you know what? I guess the Anne of Green Gables from before, Anne with an E on Netflix, I have only watched a little bit of, and it's just too hard for me to watch because I'm so steeped in the Megan Fellows version. So maybe all of the other books, they only pulled from like the first 3 or 4 books for that series. And so I wish they could have gotten all the way through till like Rilla of Ingleside, which is like Anne's daughter. If they could have filmed all of those with Megan Follows in that original cast, like all those books as movies.
I don't know if I'm blowing your mind or not, but they did do that.
They did?
With basically the same cast all the way to the war and
They
and beyond.
did? All the way up through Megan being like in her like 40s and 50s?
I don't know about Megan. Maybe not the very end, but they did do the marriage and the Gilbert going to war.
Yeah, I think I saw the marriage, but I don't remember him going to war. Now that you say that, I'll have to dig it up.
Okay, so part of your wish did come true.
Part of my wish came true. Are they good?
They're not bad, but
That's a whole
you don't get
different
that
matter.
same thrill that you got when you were 12 and, watching Gilbert being cute.
Yeah.
It's not the same.
Okay. So we'll say that in this universe, they successfully continue to deliver that same the satisfaction.
So good versions of the rest of the books. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the next question is a bit of a twist on the men question. Is 3 fictional characters you had/have a crush on?
Great. 3 fictional characters I have/had a crush on. Let's go with. Again, I'm like immediately going to books, which is not particularly necessary because I could certainly do movies or TV shows. Let's go with Dan Fielding in Night Court.
Whoa. Interesting choice.
I mean, he's a complete dickhead, but I feel like I have to honor the part of me that needed to check to see what suit and tie he was wearing every rerun twice a day when I was little. It was like OCD of me. So he's a real rapscallion. So I should, that'll take it. That'll check mark the, like, you're a terrible person that I probably would never want to be with.
Exactly. Everyone has one of those.
Gotta get one of those out there. Yeah, that'll be mine. And it's pretty mild. It's a pretty mild one considering the fictional characters who are out there.
So true.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so stupid. It's so stupid. It really is. It's just paying homage to my young, sexually curious self. The next one, let's do oh gosh. Clarice Starling as portrayed by Jodie Foster.
Yes.
And let's go with, again, there are just so many.
Well, that's your game. You know,
yeah. Let's go with Kate Winslet in Beautiful Creatures.
Right.
Wow.
I love these choices.
Yeah, they're all over the place. I love it.
That's the motif today, being all over the place. That's what we do here.
That's true.
Shiri, next one is yours.
Yeah. Name 3 fictional sidekicks that, had you been a superhero, you would like them to be your sidekick, to be by your side.
3 sidekicks, not ones that I've already, but they could be, but like just general out in the world sidekicks.
Yeah, like whomever you would be okay with, you know, if you would just hang out at your place all the time, or when you're out and about, we'll just be there to carry your stuff and be your sidekick. Gotcha. Or, you know, if you were a superhero, one of those.
Got it.
Yeah.
Definitely got to go with Naga.
Oh yay! Come on, Jen. That's such a crowd pleaser answer, but I'm gonna accept.
I know. It's also very tempting. It's very, very, very tempting to make Pabu the second one, but maybe I should.
I'm not gonna judge. I mean, I'm not.
Yeah, maybe I should stay further afield from that. Let's go with Croach.
Yes, thank you. Another crowd pleaser for the other side of the room.
Wait, is that from Thrilling Adventure Hour? And that's why I have no idea what you're talking about.
But a very sincere one.
Okay.
A very sincere one.
I don't think he'll be thrilled that you just designated him a sidekick.
I know. He'd be so mad.
And you called him Croach. That's not his designation.
Yeah, that's part of the reason it's so satisfying. And then my third sidekick... Could it be like Woody Harrelson's character from Cheers? He's not really anyone's sidekick.
Sure.
I love it.
But he's sort of like the show's sidekick. So let's do Woody from Cheers.
He'll always follow you around, always stay positive. Whatever you do is alright by him.
Yeah. You'd be like, he doesn't really understand anything, but like he's the best.
That was too good. I just such a perfect answer. Like all 3 of them. Okay, so 3 fictional places you would like to live in or just visit for a vacation.
Like a nice getaway or actual living, up to you.
3 fictional places that are not real.
Yeah. But it has to be fictional. So like,
yeah.
You know that question. That's classic MASH game.
I do. Yeah, okay. My fictional place I would love to go. I mean, you know, you do kind of want to go think about the places that you return to time and again. I would go to the planet that Aunt Beast from the book A Wrinkle in Time, where she is. I did not see the movie because I guess you guys already know that because you listen to my podcast, but I have no sense of what that means with respect to the movie. I'm very afraid of how they handled that. But in the book, Aunt Beast's planet, which is, I guess, very dark and ugly, but they have wonderful furry bodies. And then the next one would be... I got to go with Anne's Prince Edward Island to just like be in it through her eyes, you know, just to see it with her kind of wonder and her appreciation. Because that's one of the things we all love about her so much is like the magic Yeah, that she has in the everyday. And then I guess for the third one, I guess I'm going deep into books right now because those are the places where like there's no visuals really. It's all just kind of a feeling. So there's something about that that's exciting because I don't really know what that means. In some kind of way that's different. Like I could say Harry Potter, but like I in some ways that's almost too easy because it's like, well, yeah, we all know what that means. Like now there's an amusement park that's that. So like I feel like I want to pull away from that a little bit. The third one, let's do someplace cold. We'll just pretend like I'm not affected by the cold. Let's do, I don't know why I would want to do this because this actually is like kind of depressing, but let's do this. I can't say that. I wanted to say smell a sense of snow, but like it's so depressing. But I do love that book so much. Let's do the town of Concord, Massachusetts, as set in the book The Diamond in the Window.
Okay.
Okay, I don't know this one.
Well, it's my other favorite book for kids, which is that it's these two cute kids who live in Concord and their uncle is a transcendentalist, and they have all these magical dreams where they learn these like beautiful life lessons in these very imaginative and kind of magical ways. So to be able to go into the dreams with those kids and be in that world would be really cool.
I don't know why we're spending so much time doing this podcast. I feel like I need to go and read. That's the conclusion from today. So much stuff to add to my to-read list, which is conveniently on the computer on Goodreads. So,
there you go.
Yeah, coming from
that's a book you would get through very quickly, and it's not unlike A Wrinkle in Time. I think it stuck with me for so many years because it just has such grown-up ideas, just big grown-up ideas that they've really managed to, like Korra and like Last Airbender, like big ideas that that can be very heavy, that they manage to put into a way that we can understand from an early age.
On the list, officially on the list. Shiri, do we have another one?
We have two more. Because we have one that we were going back and forth on, but I really like it now, so I want to ask it. It's about mythical pets.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Though we did have Naga.
I know. I would say Naga, but I feel like I have to. I'll keep her in the other category. But I didn't get to say Pabu, so I'll say Pabu for this one. And then let's do the original cartoon dragon and Pete's dragon.
Oh.
God, there's so many good ones. So many good ones. I'm not gonna say Falcor from Neverending Story because that is just like something that people constantly say, and I'm not sure that movie holds up, although it is a great book. Let's say, I'm sure there's like a really, really good one that I'm not thinking of. Mythical pets.
This is so hard. Can it be a Pokemon?
It could definitely be a Pokemon. God, let me think. I'm like going through all the mythical pets I can think of and then trying to plug them into store. Like, where was a flying horse? Like, no, I don't have, that's not how it needs to work. Let's go with, well, you know what? Let's go with Artax, the horse in Neverending Story, purely because if I have him, that means that he did not die in the swamps of sadness.
Oh, well, there you go. You just saved a mythical horse. So good for you.
Thank you.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Hero.
Yeah.
So the very last one is about working partners. People you've worked with that you have to pick 3 that you can at any time, whenever you feel like it, be on stage with. Like you can open a door in your house and just step on a stage or in front of a camera with this person and just go.
Oh,
That's like the way she explained it to me earlier. Was like, this is a pass forever. So you can choose someone from now till forever that at any given point you would want to work with, you could.
Yep.
Great. And it's people that I already have worked with. Great. Okay. Oh my God, this is really hard. Oh no.
I said this is like choosing between mom and dad.
This is
cruel.
really hard.
Very
yeah,
cruel.
I mean, Yeah. This is definitely one of those like, oh my God, I've been so lucky. Oh. Okay, and they're performers, so that helps because that way I don't have to think about like writers and directors and musicians and all those people that I've worked with. I mean, oh God, what about just like a pocket of people? Like, can I pick like the pocket of the Thrilling Adventure Hour? Because I can't pick one person from that. Like, there would be no point to that because we would just feel awful that we'd be like, where is everyone else? Or if I do have to pick only one person, then I can't pick any of them. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just can't pick any of them.
I was going to be tough on you and make you choose just one, but you've melted my cold heart. I can't come between you guys.
You can be tough on me. You can be tough on me. Just know that the only reason I have to go through and pick individuals that don't come in a package because that's the only way it would make any sense. Which means I have to exclude every single one of those.
We are faced with an ultimatum here, Shiri. I'm gonna let you handle this.
This is like a genie wish for 15 more wishes.
It's all or nothing. It is. It's all or nothing.
This is bad parenting, but I'll allow it.
Okay, great. So we'll go ahead and grab all the work juice players. So that's one. What else? Let's go with. Now I really do. I'm going to try to just think of individuals that don't come as a package.
We have broken her.
It's just really hard. Oh God.
Yeah.
My brain is broken. My brain is broken. Whoa. I'm thinking, you know what? I'm sure I'm only thinking of this because I had a long conversation about this on Friday with someone, but I shot a pilot that never aired, that didn't get picked up, in which I played Kevin Nealon's wife. And I didn't really I've always liked Kevin Nealon. He's not like somebody that had been a favorite of mine in terms of like, was he my favorite in the era that he was on Saturday Night Live? Maybe not, but like, he's funny enough. And then I worked with him and it's one of the most fun experiences I've ever had. He is so hilarious and so funny and so fast that just in between takes, I don't think I've ever had more fun with someone. So, and that was something I probably wouldn't have thought of had I not had a conversation about it at random on Friday, but he's fresh in my mind. So we'll say Kevin Nealon. I've never worked with him again. And I've always kind of felt sad about that. And that was like probably 6 years ago. And then let's say I can't pick anyone from Theme Park, which is a bunch of really important people in my life because it just feels weird to pick just one. So I can't pick any of them. I can't pick anyone from Dinner Movie. I can't pick anyone from any of the shows I've worked on, really, because again, I'm really attached to all of them. Anything I've been on for long enough, it's kind of more of an opportunity of like, this is a person that I didn't work with enough.
You'll end up picking people you don't really care about that much.
But I'm gonna end up with like people I don't even know
like
as well.
They're okay. I guess I'll work with them for the rest of my life.
I know. Well, it's just so hard. It's so hard. Let's say I'm thinking.
Yeah.
No, you know what? I'm going to say Dana Gould. I'll say Dana Gould. Even though he comes with the whole Stand Against Evil package, I will say that if I had to just work with Dana on something else, I definitely would.
All right. So I'm going to deal with this now. Try to. You ladies entertain one another while I use this dice and write some stuff down, and we'll see what the future holds.
Okay, wonderful. Let's hear how things go. I'm very nervous and excited.
We'll see. Ooh, I'm nervous because I feel like let me know. Review my matching abilities afterwards. I had to write a little paragraph here. Let's see how it goes. Okay, so yeah, it's my first time doing this thing. Come on. Okay, so when we meet you on the set of Gary Shandling, yes, you told us about the upcoming Sense and Sensibility miniseries adaptation.
Shut up. That is wonderful news.
God, I'm doing so well so far. I'm so proud of myself. Oh my God.
You really are.
I love how I'm stopping halfway for like self-encouragement. That's great.
Take all the time you need.
Yeah. So the Sense and Sensibility miniseries adaptation, which you will co-star in along Jodie Foster.
Oh.
Dreams do come true. I know.
Oh, that's the best one.
And by the way, this entire on-set conversation was done while Naga was lying at the feet of your cast chair.
Oh, that's great.
I know.
Well, she takes up the entire set almost, probably.
I know. And I just want to say that I did not cheat. That was decided by the dice. I was very happy about it, but yeah.
Okay, great. I like that you feel that that's the one you have to say, I could have cheated on this and didn't. I appreciate that.
Korra always takes precedence over, that's just the way things are. I'm not going to lie about it. Okay, but before all this happens, once you wrap, you will head to vacation at Beast's Planet. And you will get there on the back of the dragon from Pete's Dragon.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, I kind of visualize it now in my head. That's so cool.
Yeah, me too.
And you will be joined by your friend who will also always work with you at a moment's notice, Dana Gould.
Oh, good. That means I'll always laugh.
That's true. A lot of comedy in your life, like you said. When is season 3 of Stan in the works? Actually, don't know.
Yeah, I have to leave to go shoot it in a couple of days, actually. I'll be gone in Atlanta for a while. So yeah, we're heading over.
Yay! So we're very actually lucky that we got you right now.
Yeah, it gets definitely busier and trickier when I'm there, and so that'll come out, around Halloween.
That's
this
perfect.
year.
So probably right. I actually saw the first episode of Comic-Con New York a couple years ago, and you guys, I think last year did the same thing. So hopefully that will happen again. Maybe.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's probably pretty likely from what I've heard. Yeah.
That would be very exciting. Well, Janet, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks, ladies. It was a blast.
Yay, we did it.
It was super fun, and I'm glad that we overcame our technological challenges.
And physical injuries, don't you forget.
And our physical injuries. No, this was good because it forced me to sit still for 2 hours, and I rarely can do that. I rarely allow myself to do that, and I kind of have to right now. So it might have been perfect in the end.
Wait, so what you're saying is, on record, so our listeners can hear, is that our show is therapeutic.
Yeah, it may have saved my life.
Oh, amazing! Can you ever? Yeah, that's a wonderful endorsement. Mm-hmm. We're just gonna put it now on all our flyers and stuff that we don't have. It's like Janet Varney calls it the show that saved her life. Amazing.
That may have saved her life.
Janet Varney calls this podcast the show that may have saved her life. Okay.
Beautiful.
And then I'll end in parentheses, but probably did. So yeah. All right. Well, anybody else have anything to add before we call it a day?
No. Well, this was beyond amazing, and thanks again, and hopefully we'll talk again sometime.
My pleasure. Yeah, I hope to see you both in person at some point.
I'll probably, if I'll manage, I'll stop by to say hello at Comic-Con. If you're attending this year, I don't know, but hopefully we'll all be there.
Yeah.
Yes, and I'm looking forward to any Thrilling Adventure Hour related content that might happen.
Oh yeah, we'll keep you posted.
Sure. I'm just waiting for the Korra continuation movie. No big deal, but yeah.
I would love
not an action film. Don't worry.
Yeah.
We're such fangirls, so demanding, but we just couldn't help ourselves.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. That was finally our 10 chapters special. Thank you so much to Miss Janet Varney for all her time and just being a delightful human being and great to talk to. Check her out on all her numerous projects and the things that she's in. Of course, the San Francisco Sketch Fest, her baby, that's each year, and that's the place to go if you're into comedy, which why wouldn't you be? Of course, she has the long-running, very famous The JV Club, her podcast that's still going strong, already way past the 300 episode mark. And the fairly new podcast, Voyage to the Stars, again, a comedy one, and it's really hilarious, and you should check it out. And if I've intrigued you about the Thrilling Adventure Hour and you want to check it out, it's all on Patreon now, and it's so worth it. Great value for money.
So go, go, go. The Work Juice players that we talked about just started doing improv shows again in LA. Wish I could go, but I can't, so you go instead. Go have fun. Say hi to Janet for us if you go. So yeah, and we are the Random Fandom podcast, of course. We are on Which FM on all the things, Facebook, SoundCloud, you know how it goes. Let us know if you liked it, who you are, what's your thing, what's your fandom. We'd love to hear all about it. See you around. Bye.